there are good councils and there are bad councils. The majority of the galactic species want good for Earth. There are some that don't, but the good is stronger than the bad.
Welcome to Good Vibes TV. I'm your host, Leslie Klein, here to help you raise your vibration so you can thrive. Today marks a special day because we kick off our special series called Galactic Good Vibes, where we dive deep into the experiences of UFO contactees, their healing and transformation. I'm thrilled today to be speaking with Dr. Melanie Barton, a holistic psychotherapist, ordained minister, and energy healer. Since 1985, she's been supporting clients on their emotional, spiritual, and energetic levels. She also works with experiencers, teaches, writes, and is co-authoring a book about how UFO encounters shape faith. Coming to us from Tallahassee, Florida, please welcome Dr. Melanie Barton.
Hello.
Dr. Melanie. Hi, so good to see you. So happy that I'm interviewing you today. So Dr. Barton, please tell us about your first UFO experience.
Well, it's hard to say when the first was because it's been something that's been with me since I can remember. When I was a very young child, I was sick a lot. So I'd spend a lot of time in bed and I was alone, as that was how it was at that time. And when I got ready to go to kindergarten, I remember one of the playmates that I had, I call him Robbie, he said he couldn't go with me. And I said, why can't you go with me? And he said, because your teacher doesn't understand and she won't be able to see me. And I said, oh, okay. And we had ongoing conversations that were telepathic from the time I can remember. And so he said that he would be going away, that I would forget about him, but over time I'd have other people, other beings come to guide me. So that was the first conscious memory I have of that.
So when he said he was going away because you were going to school, when did he appear in your life again?
Well, he appeared in different forms, and I didn't find out till later they were all connected. When I was 8 years old, we moved into a new house. The house had been a doctor's office, and it was 100 years old when we moved into it. And I would have this feeling that something was in my bedroom. So I would be afraid to go upstairs, and I would bribe my parents. I'll do this or I'll do that. If you please, will go upstairs and stay with me till I fall asleep. And they said, this is silly. You're old enough. You should not have this problem. Well, they'd finally leave and I'd hide under the covers because I felt a presence in the wardrobe that was next to my bed. And in this wardrobe is where my father's army uniform was kept and blankets and things like that. Well, one night I finally got brave enough to ask, who are you? Because I could see him in my mind's eye. He was a Native American chief. And I said, why are you here? And he said, I'm here to guide you. And I said, well, why does an 8-year-old need you to guide him? And he said, you won't understand now, but you will later. I said, well, you're scaring me. Just go away. And so he did. He said, but I'm going away now and you'll forget about me, but others will guide you. And during that time, I would also see there was a storage room attached to my bedroom. And when the door was open to the storage room, when I'd look out the window, I would see this small boy who was probably about 7 years old, sitting with his knees bent, his arms around his knees, and he was bluish because he was dead. And apparently he was one of the kids that had been treated by the doctor and did not survive. So that was when I was 8. And then when I was 17 in that house, I had graduated high school, about to turn 18, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I had been at church. My mom and my sisters had gone to New York State. We lived in Michigan. And I was staying home because I didn't feel well. And I'd gone to church, And I brought home a Sunday school paper that talked about missionaries in Africa encountering evil spirits. And it spooked me so bad that I didn't want to be there. And so I could feel this presence. And so I took the paper downstairs to get it out of my room. And when I woke up the next morning, I went in my closet to get my clothes out, and there was that paper laying on the floor. It scared me so bad that I went and sat in the chair by the front door and waited there for my family to come home. So that was when I was 17. And then when I was about to graduate, I was trying to decide what to do because I was supposed to go to college to become a missionary. Well, my parents could not afford their cost after the scholarship. So I'm laying in bed one night, and at 3:00 in the morning, I'm awakened by this shimmering figure at the end of my bed. And all it said to me was, "You're to go to Rochester, New York." And I said, "I don't want to go there." And the spirit said, "You will go." And within 48 hours, I had closed out my bank accounts, dropped out of the community college, and moved to Rochester, New York. So that was my second and third experience. One of the moves was to Syracuse, New York, 701 Catherine Street in Syracuse. And that house was haunted. So I would be in the house, and at that time I had a son who was about a year old, and I was expecting our daughter. And I would lay down in the afternoon to take a nap. And when I'd lay down, I'd hear a knocking on my headboard over my head, and it would call out my name, "Melanie, Melanie, Melanie." And I'd wake up and be petrified. So on the radio, they would play this song called "My Melanie Makes Me Smile." I would call the radio station. I say, "I love that song. Who is the artist of that song?" And they said, "We're not playing that song." I would call my husband up at work and I'd say, "It's playing on the radio now. Turn it on." He'd say, "I have it on that station. It's not playing." So if you look it up, the song "My Melanie Made Me Smile" is a real song. It was by a band out of Australia, and it didn't become published till like a year after I heard the song.
Oh yeah, my melody makes me smile and melts away the pain. A little light comes shining into my life again, and with my melody in my arms, the world's a warmer place.
So that was that experience. So.
Wow. So you were tuning into the song before it actually hit the airwaves. Wow. All right. And so after that experience, did you have other? Now, these I would call paranormal experiences,
We're
right?
definitely paranormal, yes.
'Cause you're dealing with spiritual, entities and spirits and things like that.
Yes, yes.
What happened after that encounter?
So we'll jump ahead to 1991, which would have been about 18 years beyond where we lived in that haunted house. And I had to have surgery that was supposed to be minor. And during that surgery, I had a near-death experience where when I entered into the tunnel, a figure greeted me. And I knew immediately it was the son, Mitchell, that I had miscarried. I was about 4 months along. And he greeted me, and I knew who he was. He knew who I was. And he says, "Hi, Mom. Yes, it's me." I'm the age I would have been, so he was 16 when I saw him there. And he said, "Come on, Mom. I want you to meet the others." I said, "Mitchell, I can't believe I see you. I know you." And I could hold him. I could touch him. I could hug him. And he said, "It's okay, Mom. I want to have you meet the others." And I finally snapped out of it. And I said, "What others?" He said, "Come on, I'll show you." So we got in this little blue rowboat, and he stood at the front of it, and he had a paddle, and he stood up and he paddled us across the water. I sat in the seat in the back and held on. We got over to the other shore. It was a very short trip. And there was Robbie, who I knew, preschool age. There was the boy that was on the roof. There was the Indian chief. There was my neighbor who died from a brain injury, my school friend who died from a car accident, and my grandmother. They were all there. And I said, "Oh, wow. I can't believe I get to be with you people again." And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Do I get to stay?" They said no. And so as I'm here with all of these beings, I said, then why did you bring me back? And they said, we needed to show you some things. I said, okay. So they started showing me scenes, and they said, you won't remember these until they happen in your life going forward. I said, all right. And then they said, we have 2 things for you to focus on when you go back. And I said, all right, what are those 2 things? They said, the first thing is you are to love the unlovable till they can love themselves. And that includes your mom. My mom had been raised by strangers because her parents both had mental health issues. So she didn't know how to give what she didn't get. And so as a child, I was always looking to get that acceptance, and she wasn't able to. So they said, I need you to do that. The second thing they said is, we are going to send clients to you. They will not realize they've been sent, but you will recognize it because we'll remind you. And you are to recognize that they are a gift, a present that we're giving to you. And your job is to open up the present to bring forth the good that's stuck inside to the outside. And I said, okay. And then I was back in my body.
When did you start your psychotherapy work?
Back in 1976, I was allowed to be what's called licensed as a minister in Indiana while my husband at the time was going through seminary. So I began to help him in his ministry, and I had a year of seminary, and then we moved to South Carolina, and I started my undergraduate degree there in psychology. And when I finished that degree, I was accepted to go to Duke University to study theology. But back then, in 1980, women were not very welcome in the pulpit. So I knew that the chances of me being able to find a church after I got my degree was very slim. And I also didn't want to leave my family, which would have been about 5 hours away, to be gone all week to go to school. So at the time, I was working as a therapist at the Drug and Alcohol Commission. And one of my colleagues said to me, why don't you go get a social work degree? She said, it's very marketable and you could do pastoral psychotherapy. So I said, all right. So that was in 1983, I began my master's program at the University of the College of Social Work at the University of South Carolina. And in 1985, I began working with a group of chaplains and pastors. And so I was in a group practice. And then I launched out on my own in 1993. My first UFO experience here was in 1994. She and her children were taken regularly, and I didn't know about it. I didn't connect it to my own experiences. So I did research on it. And the only source I knew back then was, David Jacobs type of thing. So I had her kids make drawings of what they saw. I had her medically checked out. She did have damage, sinus damage from probes being placed inside her nasal cavity. She had a very pronounced extra perception. She could see things that were going to happen and they'd happen. So it scared her and she wanted to squelch that. But I learned working with more and more people that if I helped them to develop that rather than be afraid of it, they could use it to their benefit and to help others. So I began working a lot with people who are bipolar and found that when they're making the cross between the depression to the mania or mania to depression, they have a lot of perceptions, a lot of connection to other dimensions. So I started helping them develop their skills so they could tune into what they could know and use that for their benefit and others. When I had the spiritual experience, the out-of-body experience at the end of 91, I began being interested in recycling, spiritual issues, not religious, but spiritual issues. And I began being directed to call my clients together, the ones that wanted to develop their spiritual aspects. And so we called it the Lunatics Group because we knew that we would be laughed at for what we were developing. And so I made the offering to those that I felt like would like to be part of that group. And a number of clients did. And we began doing all sorts of meditations and sharing gifts and developing our talents and abilities. And some of those people are still in connection with one another today.
When did you finally meet the Council of Eight? Was it shortly after, or did it take a while?
It took a while. In 2015, I'd had an experience while I was sleeping. I'd had two experiences. One was after my second husband died. I was asleep and I woke up to see two beings beside my bed. One was 7 feet tall and one was about 3 feet tall. One looked what I would call now either a Nordic or Arcturian, and the other was a gray. And I wasn't afraid, but I said to them, "Oh, hello." I said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We're working on you," because, I had a chronic infection I couldn't get rid of. I'd had for like 14 months. So they were working on me. And the next morning when I woke up, I had 3 fingerprints on the inside of my thighs, and the bladder that they worked on was very sore, and I had a mark on my forehead. And so I had another experience. After my husband died, I was staying with my daughter, and her son at the time was 3 years old. And we woke up in the night. We were huddled in the closet, and he was petrified because they were coming to get us. I have not had hypnosis lately to have all the details of that. He doesn't remember it, but I remember. And I remember telling him, "We're safe, you're okay, I'm here for you." So after those experiences, I contacted MUFON to just make a report. And they said, "Well, there are 2 people near you in the state that you might want to connect with because they might be of help to you." So I met with Denise Stoner and Kathleen Martin, who is the niece of Benny and Barney Hill. I met them in April of 2016 in Orlando when I went there for vacation. And they offered for me to become a referral source for MUFON people, for experiencers, so they would have somebody to help them understand what happened to them. And they said, "Why don't you come to our conference we're having in August?" So I said, okay. So when I came, I was sitting at lunch during one of the sessions, between sessions, and Kevin Briggs, there was an empty seat, and he said, "Would you mind if I sat here?" And I said, "No, of course not, that's fine." So we started talking, and he told me his story, which you'll get when you hear his story. And he said, "They've told me to come to this conference, and I'm to ask people to help me to get disclosure to come to the world." He said, "Would you be willing to advise me and help me with this?" And I said, "Certainly, yes." So as a result, he and Denise and Kathleen and I met, and Kevin started telling us the things that they are telling him to share. And Denise and I recognized that he was channeling. He didn't know what channeling was. And so we explained it to him, and he said, "Oh, okay." And we decided as a group to meet once a month to help him develop the channeling skill and to document what we were doing. So we would meet once a month. We would record the sessions. We'd measure the temperature in the room. We would assess how we felt before and after. And you can read the transcripts of our research in the book Forbidden Knowledge, written by Kathleen Martin. So we did that work for about 2 years, and then we went on to the next phase.
What was the next phase?
The next phase was we were to each branch out. And so that meant for Kathleen, Denise, and I, we added some people to a meditation group, and we met every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. We met for about an hour, and we would go in and meditate and meet with the council. And we would get direction on what we were to do, who we were to talk to. And then from there, we did that for 2 years. And then they let us know that we were to each branch out on our own, and they had other work for us to do. So we met in October of 2023 with the Greater Reality film crew, and they recorded one of the channeling sessions, and we talked about our research. And then in the book, The Greater Reality, Ray Hernandez is the one, his story explains how it all came to be. And so my account of what I've been through is in volume 5 of his series. And you can get it from A Greater Reality from the website and read that PDF for free.
greaterreality.com/buy books. And then people can download the PDFs of all 5 books.
Yes.
And read them, because I read your chapter for sure.
Yes.
Okay, so that's where people can find that. Yeah, and the movie, I have the trailer for it.
My name is Reignerio Hernandez. I'm a tax attorney. I had zero interest in anything that was paranormal related. And then, holy shit, what the hell just happened? I knew that this was not a dream. This was very, very real. And I needed to find out what happened to me. I set out to interview experiencers, PhD academics and medical doctors that had been researching all of these paranormal experiences.
I'm able to travel outside of my body on the astral plane, and I have done since I was 9 years old.
The first time I had an experience with the beings, I was about 5 years old.
I had a hunch that these orbs were something out of this world.
Would have an out-of-body experience 3 or 4 times a month, and I've learned how to move, fly, walk through walls.
The elements of a near-death experience are separation of consciousness and out-of-body experience.
There were beings, spiritual beings swirling around me and bringing me peace.
I would say my near-death experience in many ways changed me completely.
We are saturated with intelligent life right here and right now.
I see some creatures in the room. The big head, the black eyes, the long fingers.
I was shown things that you just don't see in this world.
When I opened my eyes, there was Katie, this little girl spirit.
For me, all of this is under one rubric. Consciousness includes the physical universe. It includes the cosmos. Everything we know about quantum physics and cosmology.
Consciousness is the most fundamental energy of the universe.
We share a collective consciousness.
I think that the brain is a projection of consciousness.
Everything ultimately evolves to the soul itself. This is just the physical container.
And it's only by bringing all these pieces together, both finding their commonalities and how they can each inform each other, that we can then see the big picture.
I set out on a quest to find out what happened to me. Began to realize that there are literally people all over the world having very similar experiences. Is there life after death? Do we live in a simulated reality? Is it possible that all of these paranormal experiences are somehow interrelated?
It's as if it was trying to tell us something. All of these are related. Now it's up to you to figure out how.
Wow. So we've been through your whole life history so far with all of the different encounters, and it seems that a lot of the encounters in the beginning were more spiritual encounters with seeing ghosts and the paranormal, but you did have Robbie, who was or is an ET, like a gray. And do you work with Robbie now, or
I work mostly with Shiva. She's part of the Council of Eight, which is who I met through Kevin. And her name's spelled Sheeva. She has actually appeared to me in a physical form somewhat. It was, she's about 7 feet tall when I see her, and she's like shimmering blue, iridescent blue, and she has bird-like feather wings. And she laid on top of, not in a bad way, but laid over me and hugged me and just said, "You are my daughter." And she said, "I don't mean that. I mean that literally, you are my daughter." And she said, "I will work with you." So one of the gifts that she gave me is the ability to take people on the craft into a healing chamber. And she said that I am to be the facilitator of that. I can share it one-on-one with people, but they are not to share it with others. And the reason for that is it's a very powerful tool. And if it were put into the wrong hands, it can have negative consequences. So I'm very careful when I work with somebody to take them into that chamber, that they understand this is for you, not to be shared with others.
Now, have you used the healing chamber yourself?
Many times.
What is it like? Can you tell us about the most profound experience?
Yeah. I take people through a meditative state and through a chamber so that you are going from this dimension to another dimension. So we have to rise and they have to come down. So I take people through, it's the way I explain it when I'm giving the instructions, it's like a bell-shaped curve. It looks like the bottom of a roller coaster, and you give the command for that to pull to the side, and then an aperture, an opening opens and the light comes through and you walk through and you're on like a landing pad. And then to the left is the craft. And as you enter the craft, there is a viscous substance. It looks like slime. It's purple. And the reason for that is it cleans us of anything that we're bringing in, any bacteria, anything that would not be helpful to them. And Shiva greets us there and walks us back to the chamber. And in the chamber, each pod, it's like a conveyor belt, and it would be like a ride that you'd see at Universal Studios. She taps the pod, you get in the pod. It is very comfortable temperature-wise. It is very comfortable the way you sit or lay down, and then it takes off at warp speed, and it just discombobulates your whole body and puts things back in order, and then you come back down on the pod, and then she walks you back out again through the viscous liquid, and then back into your place, and then I bring the person back to their present reality. So the most profound one I've had, let's see, the one that I did that I helped facilitate was with a person. I'm not going to mention names because people would know the person, but this particular person had had a professional career where he was to heal other people, and he had an issue himself that he could not be healed. So there's a bunch of us that worked on him that weekend, including taking him to the healing chamber and to do Reiki, and then to do a thing called reconnective healing on him. And at the end of the weekend, his pain was down to a 1, and it had been a 9.
With all of these experiences that you've had throughout your life, personal experiences, and also the experiences that you've learned about from your clients, when did you all put it together? When did it all make sense to you, or has it? Maybe it hasn't yet made sense, but have you?
It's a process. The added component was about 3 years ago now. I watched Jimmy Blanchett talk about his research with walkie-talkies. So I got some and began experimenting. You set it at a certain frequency, and I've got them right beside me, set at 144.081 or 440.000. And this is a way for beings and the council to communicate with me. And one of the things that happens is when I'm making a connection, either doing a Sky Watch CE5 event, or when I'm just trying to connect with them and I'll ask, would you please respond? It will either be some static that sounds like it's Morse code, or it'll be beeps. And if I ask in particular, can you do 1 beep for yes, 2 beeps for no? I will get a response. So one of the things that Kevin Briggs and I did, we were at a Skywatch and the radios were there, and we were asking for there to be a connection with the Council of 8. And so we put out the message and nothing was happening. So we said to Kevin, why don't you broadcast on the walkie-talkie to ask? So he picked up the walkie-talkie, not realizing he had to push the button. He just talked into it and said, could you please? So we started seeing where he had requested that we saw a craft in the sky and a flash of light, and then a voice, a female voice, came through the walkie-talkie. And then we said to him, do you realize you never pushed the button to transmit? He said, no, I didn't realize that. So we were getting validation there. So this kind of thing is ongoing. As I learn more, I do more, I find out more, I try more, and I trust. So the most recent thing Kevin told me that the council told him was all of the messages that I've gotten on the walkie-talkies. I was to sit down, the ones that I had recorded, and to meditate and to get the answers to what they were saying. So I did that. And I was able to translate what it meant for me. And then we have a colleague, someone that Kevin and I both know, She did research with it. She took the walkie-talkie transmission and put it into some processing equipment, and she got a message from it. So it's ongoing, and I don't know what's next. I just trust the process and tell them I'm willing and able. Just direct me.
So when you're using the walkie-talkies, they're not always talking through it. Sometimes it's just beeps and sounds.
Most of the time, it's just beeps. Yeah, beeps or static.
Why don't you think that they just speak straight out? Why can't it be easy?
Because they're telepathic, and they say they don't need to speak. They can tell me, and I will know if I'm missing and they're trying to tune into me. They'll put a high-pitched squeal in my right ear that says, "Hey, we're trying to get your attention." And I'll go, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry." And sometimes they or my spiritual guides will give me information about the client I'm working with, because ever since my near-death experience, I've been able to have contact with people who have transitioned, or beings, or the spiritual guides of the client I'm working with. And so I will say to the client, if they're open to it, "Okay, I'm seeing somebody that has on a ruffled kind of shirtwaist dress. Does that relate to anybody you know?" And the tears will come. They go, "Oh, that's my grandmother. I always wanted proof that she was around me." And I said, "Well, they're telling me she's here." And so that's how I share that gift.
You were probably clairvoyant from when you were a kid. Because
Yes.
you were, so you've had this gift all along, the sensitivity.
My mother had it. My grandmother, her mother had it. My daughter has it. My grandson has it. So it's a generational thing.
Oh, wow. But can people who don't naturally have that gift of clairvoyance, can they develop it?
I think that it is possible. You might have other gifts that would be yours, maybe not that one, but you can take classes to learn how to develop that skill. So yes, I believe it's possible.
Okay.
But you got to get out of your left brain to do it.
Right. Right. It's more of a the creative side of the brain.
The right side, the
right
intuitive, yeah. And what I will tell people is, it may sound crazy, but just follow it through. If it's negative, don't do it. But I'm saying if it's positive and it says you need to call so-and-so, just do it and see what happens. They'll go, "Okay, if you say so." They're going to think I'm weird. I said, "Well, you don't have to tell them you got this message.
Right.
Just call them up." And more likely than not, they'll say, "That person told me they were just thinking about me and were going to call me." I said, "Uh-huh."
Because we are, like the trailer said, we are all connected. We are in this quantum soup, and we are all connected, human and ETs, but we haven't necessarily been open to communicating with our star family, which is what I like to call them, even though I'm not an experiencer yet. Because for me, experience, I want to see them with my eyes. I mean, yes, I get messages here and there, but it's not like I'm trying to talk to ETs. I feel like I'm talking to my angels, my spirit guides, things like that, asking for guidance, and whatever I get, I go with. Can anyone kind of try to have a relationship with our star family, our extraterrestrial friends out there?
I think that there are different types for different people. One of the council members, his name is Zark. It's spelled J-A-R-K, pronounced like Z-A-R-K. He's a scientist, an educator, and he's very funny. He does things to get our attention. So what he does with me is he'll take one of my earrings. I'll lay him out on the bed, go get my shower, and come back, and one's missing. I'll go, "All right, Zark, where'd you put it?" And I can just hear him laughing. It's like, it's just material things. It's not important. "Well, it's important to me. It belonged to my mom, so put it back." So sometimes he will, and sometimes he won't. But others relate to different members on the councils. Other people relate to other councils. So, we're not all cut out of the same cloth. So what appeals to one might not to another.
Let's talk a little bit more of this Council of 8. There are 8 different beings that's part of this council that you guys have been communicating with, and that's Kevin and
Kathleen Martin and Denise Stoner.
Okay, and yourself and Kevin are the 4
we were
humans.
called the 4 Musketeers. Yes, that was what
And
they.
so you've been communicating with the Council of Eight. So talk about the Council of Eight. I understand they're different species, different types of ETs.
They're different beings, different backgrounds. And when you have Kevin on, he can explain it better than I can. But Ra is kind of the overseer. He's not the Egyptian Ra, it's R-A-H. He hasn't been in physical form in a long time. Ort and Dee are husband and wife, and they are tall, and I think they're Arcturian, but Kevin can validate that. Zark is gray, and Targ is a gray. Chica's a praying mantis. Orla, I think she's a tall white. And Arna, I'm not sure what her species is. And then Shiva hasn't been in physical form in, she said, like, I don't know, a couple 100,000 years. So she appears to people in different forms depending on what relates to them.
So how often do you meet with the Council of Eight?
I can pretty much meet with them at will. Sometimes they're not available, and they've told me, they said, you know, you're not the only person we communicate with. I said, oh, okay, sorry about that. I thought you were my personal counsel. No, we have many we work with. So I can ask a question, and sometimes the answer doesn't come right away. And I keep a journal on a regular basis where I will check in with them. Sometimes in the morning, I'll just go, you got any assignments for me today? And sometimes they'll go, yes, we do. As a matter of fact, we want you to do this. And it's like, how am I going to have time to do that? My schedule's busy. They said, we will make the way. It's like, okay. And by the end of the day, it's like, oh, somebody canceled. And so I had time to do what they suggested. All right, trust the process.
From your work with the experiencers, is there anything that happened or that you learned about that's kind of surprised you or you didn't expect when you began?
Yes. And all my religious friends who hear this are probably going to go, oh my gosh. When I had my near-death experience, they showed me what God energy is. And it was like a room with electricity, and everything and everybody was connected, just like you said. And so my image that I had been raised to believe was church, God, all that was shattered. And when I came back, church was something that was archaic. It wasn't a present energy. So it really surprised me how much everything that I had learned, then I began to question. And to this day, I'm learning new things. And what surprises me is something that I thought always was, I'm now reading people who are writing about the religious history from the standpoint of we are connected to ETs. And so it's changing everything, my whole foundation of what I was taught from the time I was little. So that surprised me, and it's ongoing.
Let's talk about that, how this concept of ETs, star family, how that impacts the religious upbringing, especially, well, I guess all of the religions don't necessarily address ETs. So then when we accept a reality that they do exist, how does that coincide with the religious beliefs that we were brought up with? And I know that, aren't you co-authoring a book with Kathy Martin about that?
Yes, we are. It's in the statistician's place right now, analyzing the data from the survey that we did with 50 questions. We had 1,005 people that responded. So we're trying to lessen what's called the ontological shock, meaning when people find out, like I did, that, oh, this is real and the things we were taught don't fit, what are we going to do with that? Throw away the baby with the bathwater? Well, we're trying to prevent that. We're trying to say that it has been in the scriptures since the beginning of the time that scriptures were recorded, but we didn't have the translation in order to do that. It doesn't mean that we're of less value. It doesn't mean that we have to throw away our belief and connection to God. It just means that we need to reshape it. And for some people, it'll be, I'm angry because the church, whatever you call the church, lied to me. Well, the church didn't know. They were following what they had been taught they were supposed to do. So I think for many of them, they're going to be in shock as well. So it's going to be quite a shift.
And speaking of paradigm shifts,
yes,
we're both part of the New Paradigm Institute's Citizens for Disclosure activism arm, right? And we're both co-leaders of Florida. I know that you said that, or told me before that your council said go ahead and get involved with the Citizens for Disclosure. Can you tell us a little bit about that encouragement and how that worked out?
I think it was February 3rd. I think it was 2021. Kevin was trying to get the United Nations to tell us what the protocol was for welcoming our ET family. And they said they didn't have one. Well, they had told Kevin they were going to show up in Central Park. I think it was February 2nd or 3rd, like at 6:31 in the morning. So he's there, I'm communicating with him. We're going, they're coming, right? He said, they just told me they're not coming. And it's overcast here. And he said they told him it wasn't safe for them to come because there wasn't a protocol. So that what instead they were going to do was a soft disclosure. And that meant that each of us, the Council of Four, would be instructed on things we were to do, and they would be working with other groups as well. And we would branch out, and eventually the disclosure would come 1 + 1 + 1. And they said to create a petition for people to sign to say, we want disclosure. So that petition has been made. There's a proclamation that has been made by those who are saying, we know they're here. We want them to be able to come. So part of that process was over time, they would tell me, we want you to do this now. We want you to do this now. And so part of that is that I'm to be part of the New Paradigm and the Citizens for Disclosure. And I follow my instructions given by the Council of 8. And then I follow what I'm requested for the Citizens for Disclosure. If the two don't coincide, I meditate on it and go, okay, what am I supposed to do? What is for our highest good? And I've had conversations with this with our state coordinator rep and explain things, and she understands that I'm following a higher order.
And anyone can actually join the New Paradigm Institute. I'll put the website right there in case people want to join it. If someone wants to make contact with the ETs, what would you recommend that they do?
I would recommend that they read a couple of books or articles about it, like Dr. Stephen Greer, the work that he's done with CE5. I would have them listen to Russ Coulthart on News Nation. Some of his interviews that he's done with people would be helpful. Go look up Chris Bledsoe and his experiences so that you can understand how he made contact. If they want to have contact and are willing to make contact with me for me to help teach them, I'm willing to do that. I don't make a promise. I don't say, oh, I guarantee. No, I don't do that. I just say, I can create a meditation for you. It's a very short one where you can say that you're open and ready for contact and see what happens.
You talked about earlier how you raise your vibration so far, and I guess they kind of lower their vibration. It's kind of like the way I understand the angels do too. If we want to communicate with angels because they're such a high vibration, we've got to raise our vibration and they lower theirs, and then we make that connection. So I'm assuming it's the same with the ETs because they're of a higher vibration.
Yes. I asked them in one of our questions with our sessions with the council, are you on the level with angels? They said no. But I said, well, do you believe in God? They said, oh, definitely. We work with God. I said, oh, okay. Just want to make sure he wasn't separate. And they said, no. But they're at a higher frequency, and angels are as well. So you're right.
And so it's kind of the different, because I know in all of this ET talk, there's several different types of sightings. People have sightings of the ships themselves, and then there's these orb plasma things. Some people are talking about transdimensional beings, and in that realm, I think they're talking more about like angels and perhaps even demons that are transdimensional those aren't ETs. The ETs are actual species, but some of them may be physical or they can become physical, but I guess a lot of them live in the 5th dimension, 6th dimension. dimensions where you don't have a physical being, but you still have a consciousness. So it can be very confusing to people to understand, what are they dealing with? Are these orbs? Are these, true beings? Are these even craft that were developed by the government? So they look like, they're reverse engineered crafts, and they're our government, and then they've been talking about false flag operations and things like that.
Right.
So it's a very confusing topic for people. I'd like to know, what do you do to raise your vibration, to make that contact?
I go into solitude so that I don't have the outside influence. And then I do some breathing exercises. And I have a special place that I sit that is my meditation place. And then I will have my pen ready to record anything, or I will have my phone recorder ready if there's something, because sometimes Shiva will channel through me. It's very rare that she does that. And the reason she says is that she can speak telepathically with me, so I don't have to channel her. But those are the things I do. And then I envision going through that inner sanctum, opening up the grid, opening up the aperture, and then on the landing pad, and then I go into the craft. So I'm joining with them in their space.
And from all these ETs that you've connected with, what do they want humanity to know? What's their main message?
What the council have instructed us, Council of Four Earthly members, is that there are good councils and there are bad councils. The majority of the galactic species want good for Earth. There are some that don't, but the good is stronger than the bad. So they said that, they're working to help raise our vibration, to help heal our planet, to teach us how to live without being dependent on fossil fuels, how to have adequate food and water for everybody, how to get along without having wars, how to heal. And they said all these things are possible, but until we can get out of that lower vibration, we're not going to be able to encounter those things.
Just in the same way, if people want to have communication with the ETs, if you're in a bad space or you're low vibration or they're skeptical, that's not going to make it easy for them to communicate, and probably not going to get any kind of communication with that.
Correct. But you
vibration.
can, in that lower vibration, have communication with some that aren't so good. Right. So you have to learn to protect yourself. Because I've had, in the last couple months, I had some physical illnesses, and some of the bad influences tried to penetrate when my vibration was low. And I had to do some protective things to say, just because I'm at a low level doesn't mean you're welcome.
Right.
And so I had to do some protection.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I know I used to have a fear of, the movie The Exorcist, kind of.
Yes.
Even though I didn't watch the whole thing when I was a kid. But that would really scare me. And the conclusion that I've come to, or what I've learned at this age, at 62, is that, they can only affect you if you fear them. If we don't fear them, or we get out of the fear vibration, they can't touch us. So if we're in the higher vibrations, the good vibes, what I'm always preaching about, good vibes, love, peace, happiness, joy, appreciation, gratitude, all of the good vibes, if we stay in that vibration, the negative entities, the negative energies that do exist, they can't mess with us. They just can't. Do you have any advice to people that might, have that fear of, I don't want to try to communicate because I'm afraid that I might communicate with something negative? What do you recommend?
So I have been doing cleansings on buildings and people and houses and animals for about 35 years. And what I have been taught over the years is, even when the negative comes, there's a reason. There's a lesson to be learned. There's a challenge to overcome. So when I'm removing some negative attachments from somebody, I ask the attachment, were you sent? Yes. Were you sent by a living human being? Sometimes. Were you sent by a deceased one? Sometimes. Were you sent for a karmic debt? Most of the time. And then I will say to that negative attachment, okay, your job's done. You can either leave and now go to the light side and not have to do this anymore, or if you prefer the dark, you're free to go, but you can't come back anymore. So I let them tell me. And when I get the answer, then if they choose to go to the light, I let them know there will be the portal opening up and you'll be welcomed home with peace and security and forgiveness. But if you choose to go to the dark side, then there is a ritual that I say, which is by the shed blood of Jesus Christ, whose discipline I follow, and the power that's been invested in me by God, you are ordered to depart from this person, this property. You can't come back into any person, property, place, thing, nothing. And then I make a loud pronouncement, go now. And then I check after to make sure they've departed. And it's quite effective.
You said that there were negative ETs or negative counsels out there. Have you ever encountered a negative ET?
Yes, I have.
Can you tell us about that experience?
I will tell you briefly, but I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to invite it in. But when I was at the low vibration, some different beings wanted to come in and, let's just say, occupy space in my body. And I had enough people praying for me and enough ability to say, no, you are not welcome. No, I choose not to have you come in. I recognize that you want to come in, so I'm acknowledging you, but no, that is not what I choose. And they went away.
And this is because this is a free will world that we live in. We have free will, and we have the right and the sovereignty to protect ourselves and to not allow things in, right?
Right. And I didn't necessarily notice that I'd had some things that came along when I was in the hospital. 3 weeks ago, I had some negative attachments that, piggybacked, hitchhiked with me, and I didn't recognize it, but others did. And so they told me, and I listened because I believed them, and I did the processes and had people do the ritual, and they went away. And I could feel a shift in the energy within minutes of them doing the processes. But I didn't know because I was clouded.
Right, because you were still healing in the healing process.
Yes, yes.
So it's not anything, the spirituality is not anything people should be afraid of, but it is a real thing. And, and it isn't all unicorns and rainbows.
It is
there
not,
is the other
no.
side to it, but
if
we don't have to live in that other side or evoke that, right?
So if people get afraid, there are things to help them. So if they feel like, oh my gosh, something's happened, I've got something attached to me. Well, there's ways you can check. And I've got a video that I can send to you that you can attach that tells people how to protect themselves from such things.
We'll put that in the description of the video.
Okay.
So, Melanie, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience?
I'm very grateful that I have the opportunity to do the work that I'm doing. And I'm open to helping whoever is open to learning what they're supposed to do. But you've got to have a receptive attitude and not expect, oh, I'm going to get this great mission and I'm going to have this wonderful publicity. That's not what it's about. You almost have to agree to be in solitude and to work from behind the scenes to make the most pronounced effect in a positive way.
What are the best ways for people to reach you, Dr. Melanie?
They can go to drmelaniebarton@gmail.com. They can go to my website, thedrmelanieshow.com, or they can contact through you and you can direct them to me. Or they can go look up my books on Amazon.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Melanie Barton, for this interview. Lots of insightful information, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to talk with you and learn about this kind of new world that's opening up to many of us who never really kind of got into the ETs. But I think it's time because it's part of our evolution.
Thank you for the privilege.
Thank you for watching. If you've received some value from this episode, please like, share, and subscribe, and also let your friends know so that they can learn how to raise their vibration. Peace out, everyone.